い。
篠宮ですが、会長ですか？
私はみゆきの父です。
Welcome back, nerds. Fino here. We've come from the worst 5-star in the game to a servant that is quite possibly the best 4-star. This is Kriemhild. She's a story-locked berserker introduced in Drom, and she's a real game changer. Let's take a closer look. Kriemhild's first skill is also her least impressive one. Revenge Plot Amok is an AoE charge drain that also applies 3 turns of defense and crit chance reduction. Generally speaking, just use it against the first valid target for those last 2 effects, unless you expect the fight to last longer than 3 turns. Next up, we have Murderous Retribution. It's a 3-turn arts and buster buff that also provides damage against chaotic alignment enemies. This is Kriemhild's main offensive steroid, but that anti-chaotic effect is something special. Not only does it cast a very wide net, but this type of specialized damage is an extremely useful thing to have for the upcoming paradigm shift. That and large batteries. Speaking of which, the last of Kriemhild's standard skills is Noble Woman's Love. It's a 50% battery and personal heal. This in and of itself is ridiculously good and well outside the pay grade of most other 4-stars. But there's one other ingredient in this skill that pushes it to extreme heights. A targeted taunt. This helps Kriem redirect aggro off herself. Even though she has a high attack stat relative to her rarity, this comes at the expense of her health pool. Now, most of the time you'd gladly trade health to gain attack, but this does have consequences. Kriemhild can explode from a light breeze, but consider this. More important than Kriem redirecting aggro off herself is that she's putting it on someone else. Keep that in mind while I go over a noble Phantasm. That would be Balmung Kriemhild. This is a single target arts attack with an immensely powerful cocktail of effects. First of all, it preemptively purges all defense buffs. Invuln, defense, you name it, it's gone. It's a remarkably useful thing to have, but there's one thing you should know. This is better than Defense Ignore and Invuln Pierce, but only if you're attacking someone with removable buffs. Sometimes special boss enemies have their buffs in boxes, signifying that they can't be purged. In this situation, you'd need to get the proper countermeasures through other means, like running Calamity Jane for Invuln Pierce and then taunting her. Alternatively, you could run a craft essence like Valentine Witches, though this has a pretty big damage drop-off compared to Black Grail, so you should avoid doing this if at all possible. Next is the Overcharge, a 3-turn arts resistance reduction. In challenge quests and other boss fights, you'll be looking for ways to power through either escalating health bars or more stubborn defenses. In either case, Kriemhild is well equipped to pile on the pain, assuming she can actually get the needed charge. To complete the package, we have yet another special anti-buff. As fitting for Balmung, it's anti-dragon damage. This alone has value, but combined with her anti-chaotic buff, it makes Kriemhild an apocalyptic threat to chaotic dragons like Kyohime, Mordred, Ibuki, Shuten, Siegfried funny enough, and most versions of Elizabeth Bathory, assuming they're not these steel or cellulite variants. One very interesting double whammy is Oberon, who's the focus of an extremely brutal Super Recollection quest once we get to the Lost Belt 6 part of Road to 7. His colossal health pool and buff purges make the Immortal team dysfunctional, so you might be struggling for options. But Kriemhild can actually win in a face race. And the fact that Oberon purges your buffs matters a lot less when he's flying around one-shotting people like he's Palpatine, because one of your supports is going to take that bullet. I've alluded to this, but let's get it out in the open. Kriemhild wants to spam her Noble Phantasm, but she ain't Squirturia. She doesn't get it for free. You could try to get lucky with your face cards, or you can run a strong backline of charge supports. Capping off a run with an Oberon push is already established practice. If you can map your run from your starting Castorias and chain your way to him, that's a powerful strategy, one that Noble Woman's Love enables. Ideally, that eliminates one of your supports. You have Outrage for another, and after that you either run Poster Girl or freewheel it. I can't emphasize enough how good that targeted taunt is. This normally comes with strings attached. Oberon has one tied to his most important steroid, so you typically don't use it for the taunt. Chengong is very good for his rarity, but if you're using him as a support, you probably want him to taunt himself, otherwise he mucks up your cards. And then there's Kiritsugu, who's probably the most straightforward point of comparison. He's another arts attacker with a targeted taunt, but he pays dearly for it with a single-turn art steroid and a specifically gimped MP gain stat on Chronos Rose. In contrast, Kriemhild gets the taunt, and it comes with a 50% battery at 0 cost to her. Speaking of taunts though, here's a fun gimmick. Kriemhild has a handful of servants that are naturally super weak to her by virtue of being both dragons and chaotic. But there's a way of applying one of those traits. St. George turns an enemy into a dragon with his Noble Phantasm, and while getting Ascalon ready is a pain without starting charge CEs, there are a huge swath of chaotic servants you can abuse with his combo. One thing that's nice about George though is that he has a built-in Poster Girl, meaning there's relatively little RNG involved in getting him off the field. For equipment, Black Grail is the obvious choice and the one I'd recommend for most situations, but there are some notable alternatives for our Grailless friends. Ocean Flyer is the key generic, free-to-play option for arts attackers. If your luck swings you into a maxed out copy, try Phantasmal Princess. It's a lesser Black Grail on account of its lower stat cap, but operates as a functional substitute when equipped to a Berserker. Kriemhild's command codes are pretty obvious. The usual Mages of Flowers Da Vinci combo is expected, but as a servant with a small health pool who's generally weak to disruption, I'd recommend running White Vessel's command seal as a prophylactic. You know, just in case Siegfried caught anything from his Bryn sessions. Now for a bit of unpleasant subject matter. The Galatea gang had some beef with me, but now it's time to add the Vlad gang to the mix. For the purposes of being a generic single-target arts berserker, Kriemhild is the best option you're gonna have for a little while. In terms of balancing power and utility, she blows away her older competition. And they're 5 stars. Yeah, Vlad can boast about his durability and hit count, and Galatea has... you know, 1 stack of purge resistance? But when it comes to the shit you really want a single-target art Zerk for, you point at thing, NP until it dies, Kriemhild runs a clinic on them. And get this, Kriem's attack stat as a 4-star is only about 1,000 below Vlad's, and that's without factoring in traits and alignments. Vlad and Galatea deal about 6,000 more damage with their noble phantasms at comparable NP levels, but if you, say, Grail Kriemhild, that advantage melts away. You don't even need a huge number of Grails either, though as a Berserker her base attack multiplier makes Grails quite an effective investment. The only reason why I don't call her the best in the category is that a little more than a year from now, Summer Castoria shows up, and she's like if regular Castoria went postal, combining her caster form's game-distorting utility with the aggression of a Berserker. If that's the only thing that one-ups you, a limited 5-star mascot versus a 4-star, that's really goddamn impressive. I'd say Kriem is safely in the top 10 when it comes to 4-star servants, and she's a strong contender for number 1. It's almost like her first banner is an experiment to see how much bullshit you're willing to put up with in order to get this kind of power. But the banner stuff I want to talk about in a separate video, so we'll hold off on that for today. Finally, I alluded to a paradigm shift a little while earlier. That would be the advent of 90++ nodes. We're about to see the top end of farming nodes escalate dramatically in difficulty, and the main features of this style of node are regular enemy numbers and a final wave with bloated health values, sometimes approaching 1 million. Team building for these encounters emphasizes battery skills and burst damage enabled by specialized buffs. As you've no doubt figured out, Kriemhild has both, and in JP she's already come up multiple times as a valid boss killer for this purpose. So don't sleep on Kriem. You very much want access to her massively overloaded kit. The only question is when. The answer? Well, stay tuned and you'll see. With that said, like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more, and come watch me this Sunday when I play Roland Roulette. It's a fun game where if I win, I don't have to look at Roland's junk. Twitch.tv/Finotaisen. I stream 3 PM Pacific time, Friday through Sunday. Also, she's not part of the initial Tron release, but Popus Johanna does become a servant down the road, so if you want a sneak peek, I put the video up on screen. Till next time.